There is no fair in this. If it was fair, you'd see a whole different world today. Go with me to Romans 11. Hurry up. Can I have 2 more minutes? All right. 2 apiece, I mean. All right. Romans 11, verse 11. He says, now I say then, they did not stumble. He's talking about Israel. They did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be, but by their transgressions, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make them jealous. You and I were saved so that God could put a jealousy in Israel. Verse 12, now if their transgression is riches for the world and their failure is riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their fulfillment be? In other words, if you and I have all of this because Israel failed, what would happen when Israel is restored? What then happens? He says, think of how much more glorious things could be. I'm saved. Well, what else could God do? Well, wait and see. But stand with the scriptures in relationship to this people. The psalmist prayed, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Go back to Romans chapter 1. What are we focusing on? Come on, say it with me. What are the issues I'm pointing out to you that you need to deal with wherever you are? Judges. What kind of judges? Righteous judges. Abortion, marriage, freedom of speech, Israel. Romans chapter 1. Verse 21. For even though they knew not God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible man, and of birds, four-footed animals, and crawling creatures. Therefore God gave them over in the lust of their hearts to impurity, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them, for they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. Is that happening? They worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forevermore. And for this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged the natural function for that which is unnatural. Now, you got to be overly naive not to understand what he just said there. He says, in the same way also, the men abandoned the natural function of the woman. He's talking about sexual intercourse between male and female, female, female. He says, and burned in their desire toward one another, men with men, committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents. Bill Maher has come out with a movie that's anti-religion. It's anti-anything you believe in. Not just anti-Christian, it's anti-Muslim, it's anti-anything. He's articulate, and he's funny, and he's evil. Without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. So when somebody says, have you seen that movie? I want to answer them like a prominent preacher did one day when he heard about somebody speaking. He said, why swim through a river of sewage to get a teaspoon of truth? They are without, come on, verse 31. What are they without? Understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. Verse 32, although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them. Now look, this verse is saying it is not just an issue of you saying, I believe it or I don't believe it, but it's an issue of you saying, I don't do it myself, but I don't care about anybody else who does it. It doesn't bother me. Every person has a right to choose their own poison. Now listen to the Message Bible. I'm almost done. I can get my computer to come back on. The Message Bible is an interesting, forget it. The computer left me. Here's what this scripture says in summing it up. If you don't want to do it my way, I will let you do it your way. And I will give you up to your own evil desires until, remember the scripture says in Psalms, they asked for meat until it came out of their noses. God will give you so much of what it is you think you want until you puke it. And it's right about that point that you will say, I don't think I want any more ice cream. Yeah, but it's good. I know, but it makes me sick. But you didn't think it would, but it's making you sick. You say, what do I do about my children? What do I do about my friends? What do I do about my beloved? What do I do about my coworkers? You pray for them. You intercede for them. You tell them the truth. But I might lose them as a friend. It'd be better to lose them as a friend than for them to look at you as they're walking away from the judgment seat, saying to you, Sarah, did you know this? When we were friends, why didn't you tell me? One more verse, and I'm done. It's going to take you a minute to find it. It's in the book of Obadiah. Obadiah has one chapter, 21 verses. I only want to read 2. Verse 10, because of violence to your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame, and you will be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Now, what is he saying here? He's saying in the same day the enemy took advantage of that city and you did nothing. You were just like the enemy. To do nothing isn't an option. To say nothing isn't an option. To sit and listen to people say, I don't think it's all that bad. That's not an option. You cannot allow people in your presence to call evil good and to call good evil. You have to say something. You have to say something, because if the foundations are destroyed, what can you, the righteous, do? Your challenge, our challenge, is to protect the foundation. It's to say, it's to preach. There is no greater power on earth than the preaching of the gospel. No greater power. I am not ashamed of the gospel. All of this is the gospel. What I'm showing on the screen, that's the gospel. That's part of the gospel. It's the stuff that Jesus preached. And you can't preach the gospel and leave this stuff out. At some point, you have to whip your kids even if you love them.